Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. I'm very excited for Trails Through Daybreak. I don't know about you. I've kept myself spoiler free and I'm so incredibly ready to move on to this next arc of the Trails series. But if you're not up to speed, I know that jumping into a series like Trails can be intimidating. A while back, I did a video on the best entry point for the Trails series. I'll link that in the description, but that video was made pre-Daybreak's imminent release, so the rules have changed a bit. And what you might be wondering is, can I start the Trails series with Trails Through Daybreak? The answer is yes. Thanks so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit that bell so you always know when... Okay, I'm kidding, of course. I mean, a 30-second video, YouTube's algorithm would murder me. But honestly, I have a lot more to say beyond that simple and straightforward assertion. Let me quickly address the controversy. There are some elements within the Trails fandom that, while not gatekeeping specific people out of the community, will gatekeep your method of entering the community. To them, the only way to begin this series is with Trails in the Sky FC. First things first, let me tell you why that's silly nonsense. Anyone who tells you that you have to begin the series from the very first game is trying to exercise control over you. Now, to be charitable, they may have good intentions. After all, they probably started with Trails in the Sky FC, and they've had a magnificent experience with the Trails series. And it's inconceivable to them that someone could have a similarly awesome experience with the series if they're not going about it the exact same way they did. So they want you to have a good time, and they're convinced that if you don't go about the experience the same way they did, you're not going to have a good time. Friends, I'm here to tell you, that's not the case. And that's because of the intrigue of world building. I should explain what I mean by that. One of the things the Trails series is renowned for is its attention to detail in a story spanning this length of time and this number of entries. And it's true, getting to see that world building happen from the very beginning is incredibly cool. No other video game series can give you that experience. But to say that's the only experience anyone could or should have with the Trails games is, frankly, just silly. There are other equally cool experiences you can have with these games depending on your entry point. Now, I haven't played Daybreak yet, but based on my extensive experience with the rest of the series, I can tell you a bit about what your experience as a first-time Trailser is going to be like if you start there. You're going to be dropped into a world that feels incredibly developed. Characters will be going about their daily lives against a backdrop of huge events that recently took place on the world stage. Characters will even reference those events, and they won't spend an inordinate amount of time explaining them to you, the player. Some people might find that frustrating. They might feel like there's some secret code being used here that's keeping them from a full understanding of what's going on. If that's you, then my advice is, do your best not to think of it that way. There's a storytelling technique known as in media res, which translates to in the middle of things. It's a strategy for developing the world of a story outside of the story itself, and then beginning the story in the middle of the action. Beginning with Trails Through Daybreak will give you in media res vibes for sure. There were huge events that took place over the last few years that have had a profound impact on the world of the game and the characters within it. These events that took place, these important people that are mentioned, this is a beautiful backdrop for you. It colors the world around you in a way that few games are able to pull off. You may not know what the characters are referencing, but rest assured, you don't need to understand it. Let it wash over you, and more importantly, let it intrigue you. I think about games that do world building really well, that intrigue me with their histories. A recent one was Final Fantasy XVI. Those writers did a really good job of making the world fascinating to me. I can imagine what events might have transpired in that world in the past based on little snippets of dialogue and lore references I come across. And that's cool, and that's fun. But here's the thing. I can't actually experience those things. As much as I might want to see the conflict that led to the bearers becoming enslaved, I can't. It's not there. There's no game for me to play or movie for me to watch that tells that story. So you see, as a newcomer to the Trails series, beginning with Trails Through Daybreak, you're in a really unique and, frankly, enviable position. If you find all this backstory intriguing, if you really want to know what happened, you can. Every game in this series is available for purchase today. They're often on sale too, so you can do it on a budget. And sure, they're not all available on your platform of choice, unless your platform of choice is PC. But if you want it enough, you can make it happen. Want to learn about the Liberl incident that kicked off Ouroboros' involvement on the world stage? Grab the Sky Trilogy on Steam. Want to know about the turbulent times in Crossspell? Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure are on pretty much everything. Want to know about Operation Jormungand or the Erebonian Civil War? Trails of Cold Steel. Like, you can just play those games pretty much whenever you want. The backstory is there for you if you want to explore it further. It's like the Silmarillion to the Lord of the Rings, only less British. Another issue I hear from people online is that jumping into a series of this size is just intimidating, full stop. Like, the idea of starting a game like Trails Through Daybreak, getting hooked on the lore, and suddenly finding yourself with 10 more games to get through when backlogs are already the size of redwoods and our time on this good green earth is fleeting, well, it's a lot. I get it. But get this. You can play Daybreak, and if you like it, you can play the next game in the series when it comes out. And then the next. You can start from here. And if you don't have the time or the desire to go back and play what came before, let me be as clear as possible about this. You don't have to. No matter what any angry guy on the internet tells you, your leisure time is yours. And you can do with it whatever you want. You'll be having a different experience than that angry guy on the internet, but you know what? That's fine. I bet you'll still have a good time, because if there's one thing I can say about the Trails series, it's that each game in the series is an enjoyable experience on its own. It's all about understanding what you're doing and managing your expectations. If you start with Daybreak, like I said, you're going to hear references to things that happened in the past. Knowing those things is not a prerequisite to having a good time with the game or understanding the story of this title. Now, personally, I think that if you play Daybreak and enjoy it, you'll eventually want to go back and play the other games in the series. It's a freaking great series, guys. But if you're worried that might be the case, and I say worried because, like, you might be thinking, dang, I don't want to play this game because then I'm going to want to play all the other ones and I don't want to get stuck just playing one series for the next 2 years of my life, then I just ask that you keep this in mind. You don't have to rush. It's true. If you love Daybreak and want to dive into the wide world of Trails, you can grab another game from the series and play it. And then, if you want a break, take one. Play something else. Play whatever your heart desires. The Trails series isn't going anywhere. Play them at your own pace. If this hobby starts to feel like a chore, then, my friend, in my opinion, you're hobbying wrong. Take your time and really absorb the story. If you take a break between games and you're worried you'll forget something, just keep in mind most of them have backstory recaps to fill in the blanks. It's strange to think of a story this massive as being accessible, but it really is. Look, the bottom line is the only reason you shouldn't play Trails Through Daybreak is because you don't care for it. All these other reasons, the people screaming in your ear that you have to play this series in a certain way, the fear that it's just too big and overwhelming, those are bad reasons that are standing between you and what could potentially become a new favorite. So I'm recommending you check it out. There's a demo, go play that. Then you'll have an idea if it's going to be up your alley. If so, then great, dive in. I suspect you'll like it enough that you'll want to experience the rest, at your own pace, in your own time. But if not, that's cool too. At least you'll know. And then you won't have to worry about whether you're potentially missing out on something you'll love. Anyway, that's all for this one. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, it really helps the channel out a ton if you can, and I really appreciate it. With that, until next time, bye.